Good morning, guys. So these are the demo lectures of new batch, which is going to start in the first week of October. Today's session is about one of the papers of main examination, ethics, integrity, and aptitude. What we call in Marathi, Niti Shastra, Naisargik Kshamta, and Satsoti. Okay. The purpose of today's session is to give you an idea about what are the key demands of this paper, okay, and how to score well in this paper. But to know all these things, you need to know three things first. One is syllabus of the paper. Second is structure of the question paper. And third, what are the resources you need to refer in order to prepare this paper. Another thing I would like to highlight towards the beginning is, as an adult person, I assume that most of you are above 18, right? So as an adult person, our experience is, in my opinion, good enough to help us to decide what is right and wrong, right? So what we call the idea of morality has been taught to us since our childhood by our parents, then by teachers, neighbors, relatives, siblings. They tend to teach us, right? Even without being asked. Sometimes what we call unsolicited advice. But we also learn through our experience that what is right thing to do, what is wrong thing to do, what should be avoided, what should be adopted, and how to become a better person. And in my opinion, adults have capability to learn by themselves. Okay, and they can easily learn all these things as a part of their growth process. But if you look at the society, this doesn't hold true. Are you getting my point? Even adults commit mistakes. Now see, I am talking about only personal sphere of your life. Forget social, political, and international. All these spheres will take later on. But even if you look at personal lives of people, they tend to commit mistakes, despite knowing what is right and wrong. So again, you'll realize simply having knowledge of what is right and wrong is not enough. You need more than that, right? Even at personal level. Now, once you grow up and once you take part into the social organizations, other than personal sphere, say family. Okay, family is not purely personal sphere. Okay, when you marry someone, that person is not already part of your family. But over a period, that person becomes part of your family. So even morality comes into the relationship between you and your spouse. Are you getting my point? Then your neighbors, right? They are beyond your personal sphere. But sometimes over a period, they are also part of your personal sphere, right? Or your classmates for that matter, right? They are initially not part of your personal sphere, but over a period, you become close friends, good friends. You learn from each other, you help out each other. So as your sphere of life expands, your notion of morality has to expand. And once you get into different professions, like say doctor, lawyer, or for that matter, civil servant, the matter of morality becomes more complex. It is not as simple as that what we look at in personal sphere. Are you getting my point? Okay. So in order to understand that complexity, in order to unravel the layers of this complex matter of morality, you need to study ethics. Okay. Because ethics offers you certain perspectives, which you, if you already know, then you already know their advantages and disadvantages. Not only that, you also know their respective application areas. So tomorrow, as a job of bureaucrat or civil servant, your main role will be to offer an advice to the political executive in the process of policy formulation. Are you getting my point? And one of the inquiry you need to do while making policies is ethical inquiry. Are these policies ethical or not? So before you offer an advice, you need to know how to evaluate something as ethical. And not only that, next role is policy implementation. Are you getting my point? And there, arises a scope for clash between you and others, because their version of morality may not align with your version of morality. Are you getting my point? So the clashes with what we see in society, say for example, protest against farm bills. What government thought was right, that perspective was not accepted by farmers. They said no, not for us. Are you getting my point? So if you have apt understanding of others' version of morality, you already have strategy to deal with their reactions. What we call proactive action, not reactive action. Are you getting my point? So the study of ethics is, in my opinion, sine qua non, essential for a bureaucrat. And because this has been realized by eminent organizations, constitutional bodies like UPSC, that's why they have incorporated this subject. But we will discuss that later. Okay, so first let's start with some hypothetical cases. And through those cases, I will try to make a case about why ethics is important and why you should study ethics for purposes other than passing the exam. Of course, your primary purpose is to pass the exam, but this should not be the only purpose for which you should be studying ethics. Okay, all right. So I'll share the PPT and we'll start with some hypothetical cases. So first case is simple enough. Will you torture a person who is suspected to be a terrorist? That person has got an information about a bomb which has been hidden in your city. You are a police officer. And if that bomb goes off, it is so powerful, it will kill lakhs of people. Okay, that powerful level of bomb is there. So will you torture that person to extract the information so that you can defuse the bomb in time and save millions of lives? How many of you say yes, you will? Of course, I'm not saying to the death. So many people end up choosing this option that I will, yes, torture the person. I'm not saying all. Many people end up saying, okay, I will torture the person in order to save millions of lives. Okay. So on one hand, you have impending death of millions of people. On the other hand, you have torturing of a suspected terrorist. So which option is more affordable, more feasible, more preferable is torturing a person rather than letting millions of people die. Now, there is a perspective in ethics, what we call consequentialism. Okay, you are looking at the possible consequences and then you are deciding which action is preferable. But this school of thought, known as consequentialism, is not without its drawback. Because as it happens in any humanity, no theory is without flaws. There is no such thing as known as perfect theory, which will be applicable for all situations, in all cases. So that's why you need to study multiple theories. Had it been the case that there is only one theory, which is perfect enough, then we would have studied that much only, right? So in first case, the choice is, I would torture the person to extract the information and save the millions of lives. But now it happens that you decide to torture, you torture him, but he says no. And that only consolidates your suspicion. If that person had been innocent, he would have said so. He would have said, sir, I have nothing to do with the case. I have nothing to do with your bomb. I'm a simple, ordinary person who is making out living in the city. Why are you torturing? And all kind of pleas he would have made. But he's keeping silent. And that only makes you suspicious. Why is he keeping silent? But now you realize no matter how much you torture, he's going to keep quiet. Because he's trained for that. Then you get the information that he has got a cute 3-year-old daughter. And if you do something to her, if you torture her, he will speak like a parrot. He will reveal everything. Now, how many of you will do that? Will you torture her in front of him? Yes? No, he's smart enough to understand that. So my case is, unless you actually torture her, make her scream. She will not scream. So will you make her scream? Will you make her cry in front of her? How many of you say yes? Now the tricky thing is, those who earlier had said yes, now say no. Very few people say yes, I will talk to her. But there are people who say, no, this is not right. No matter how many people's lives are at stake, torturing an innocent person is not right. And there is a name to this in ethics. Are you getting my point? Because tomorrow, whenever such cases are offered to you, it is not enough to make a choice. You need to offer a convincing explanation as to why you made the choice. And sometimes you'll realize looking at consequences is not enough. You need other than consequences. Sometimes these consequences alone doesn't matter. Sometimes you forget or keep aside your consideration for consequences. Are you getting my point? So there is another theory which says, no, don't look at consequences, look at something else. Are you getting my point? Now, second case, do you think suicides are unethical? How many of you say they are wrong, they are unethical, they are not moral? It is not right to commit suicide. How many of you have this opinion? Why?
It's not the option, sir.
Correct. But that's what you think.
There are more things we can.
Right. But if you keep yourself in the position of a person who is about to commit suicide, he or she may think this is the only way I can solve the problem. So how convincing you can explain, okay, this is not the right. Only saying this is not the only solution is not right way. Because it may show lack of empathy. That you are not able to put yourself into position of that person and realize and experience what that person is feeling. Right? Everybody does that. What is needed is empathy. You should be able to put yourself into that person's position and see, feel, and take his or her perspective as to how she feels. You might be aware that, suicide was crime until recently. Okay. If a person fails in the attempt of suicide, he will be behind the bars. That was the situation. But now as a society, we have realized this is not the right solution. If you put the person behind the bar, he will be more depressed. What you need is psychological counseling, support. How many of you have studied sociology in your academic? Online people, how many of you? Am I audible to you? Yes, guys. How many of you have studied? I'm looking at chat box for your replies. Have you studied sociology as a part of your academic? Okay, no issue. In sociology, there is a thinker known as Emile Durkheim. He has studied the phenomenon of suicide. And in his study, he has classified suicides into 4 categories. One is altruistic suicide. Have you heard this word, altruism? Done for the others. Altruistic means for the others' benefit. So some people commit suicide so that others should get benefit. So for example, our soldiers, okay, they sacrifice their lives for the sake of nation. Even though we call it sacrifice, in itself it is suicide. They're killing themselves. Even in olden days, in polar region, when food was scarce, old people used to sacrifice themselves in the cold so that the food would last for the remaining years. So बचा हुआ जो खाना है, दूसरों को मिल जाए. Now, would you call such suicide as unethical, which is done for the sake of others? Then there is another suicide known as fatalistic suicide. Fatalistic is due to excessive rules and regulations, too much restriction. So it was observed among slaves when slavery was prevalent in Europe and America. Slaves were restricted to such an extent, even they were not allowed to voice their opinions. Even their own children were sold in front of their eyes. They had no ownership over their own children. So sometimes some slave used to decide, okay, such kind of life is not worth, I will end the life. I'm worse off than animals. So fatalistic suicide. So would you call such suicide as unethical? Instead of living the life of utter worse drudgery, people are deciding it's worth to become free by killing oneself. Then there is third and interesting kind of suicide. It is known as anomic suicide. Anomic का मतलब है lawlessness. When suddenly law disappears from the society, it creates a vacuum, and people fail to make sense of their life. What is to be done? Now what? Because these restrictions and law had provided them some sort of meaning to the life, but now that has been gone. Now what is to be done? So they commit suicide. Now this kind of suicides are rare, but they do happen. So a few years back in Bangalore, an IT couple had committed suicide by writing a note that we had enjoyed everything what we wanted in our life. Now there is nothing to do with. We are happily ending our life, and they committed suicide. Now can you imagine? Not everybody can, but still some people commit such suicide. And there is last known as egoistic suicide, which often found in society, where the ego is hurt one way or other way, and people think now it is not worth. Now think about all these aspects and see how your perspective changes. Are you getting my point? So these social sciences like ethics and other sciences, they offer you an interesting perspective as to how to analyze the events around. And once you are adept at that, then you can offer constructive solutions, which are rooted in theory, but connected with practice. Are you getting my point? So these were some of the primary cases I wanted to discuss. Now let's move to basics. What is ethics? Okay, so write down functional definition of ethics. Ethics is a systematic study of human actions. Ethics is a systematic study of human actions. Systematic study of human actions from the perspective of their rightfulness or wrongfulness. From the perspective of their rightfulness or wrongfulness. Okay, so this is a functional definition of ethics, because we are going to explore this concept in depth later on during our first few lectures. Now, second aspect is why its study has become more important. Okay, so do you know when this paper was introduced in your main exam scheme? Any idea? What was the year in which it was introduced? 13. So almost 10 years have been completed. But it took us 21st century to realize that this is important for administration. Why? Why not earlier? What do you think? Now let me tell you, one aspect which is needed in civil services is to be curious. Don't accept everything which appears prima facie. You have to go beyond it. You have to ask questions. You have to raise meaningful questions. You have to seek the answers. Because see, what it happens in competitive exam, everywhere you will see herd mentality. Everyone is doing what everyone else is doing. So what makes difference among those who succeed and those who not? Those who succeed take initiative. They raise the question. They do their homework. They prepare certain questions. They seek the answers. So first question you should realize, who recommended first that ethics should be part of civil service examination and why? Okay, so I won't give you exact answer because it is your job, but my job is to create a curiosity and to prod you in the right direction. Okay, because in my opinion, a student is not a pot to be filled, it is a lamp to be lit. And you have to be self-reliant over a period of time. Because of the field of and era of information technology, everything is available to everyone. You're getting my point. Any book you name it, it is on Google. Okay, even in PDF. Even competitive exam के जो सब किताबें हैं, people have scanned them and put them on, open source websites. You can download them and study them. Even newspapers are available, e-papers. Okay, earlier even The Hindu was not available in Pune. It was one day late, and that used to be get published from Bangalore or Hyderabad or Chennai. Then few years back it started in Mumbai, and now you are getting on the same. But today they also publish e-paper, which you can download wherever internet network is available. So everything is available to everyone, almost everything. Even Delhi class notes, unique class notes, you name it and it is there. So what makes difference is to be curious, to make efforts, to make your preparation qualitative. Okay, and for that you need to be able to channelize your energy in right direction. Because once you type UPSC on Google, you'll get millions of search results. So उसमें भी क्या सही है क्या गलत है, इसका जो फिल्टर है ये आपको लगाना है. Not everything available on website is authentic, worth spending time. So my role is to channelize you in right direction. Okay, so see, one perspective I would like to offer here is whatever changes that are brought in exam system are in response to what has changed in our society. So in last 2 decades, something has changed in our society which was not earlier there, and that has necessitated a new form of government. Old form cannot help now for a country to grow. So what you need is new form of government, new set of values, and to judge those values, this paper has been brought. Are you getting my point? So your job is to find out who first recommended it should be part of your scheme and what was their reasoning. Okay, over a period, I will offer you answer to these questions as well. But let me see how many of you take initiative and go ahead. Okay, let's start with nuts and bolts of today's session. Now, this was a job, I would say, preface or a background to your today's session. Today, we will look at preparation aspect. So, in preparation aspect, we will focus on 3 things. One is syllabus. You should know this by heart over a period. Second, question paper. What extent they are asking question, what is their nature, what is the size of question, what they demand. Third, your resources, means books and references. Then how to excel in GSP. Now this aspect is crucial. Why? Because this is not a graduate level exam where everyone is going to, crack it. That cannot happen. It is competitive exam. Okay. So number of successful people will be equal to number of posts. No matter how much you make efforts, some people are going to get excluded out of the list. So your job is not only to prepare the exam, but think about ways and means of excelling compared to others. Are you getting my point? In what way I can stand apart from the crowd? In what way I can score better marks? How I can prepare in a better fashion? That should be your thinking from the day one. Okay, so there are 2 aspects to this. One is, first you should understand the demand of the exam. Means what are the objectives they are trying to fulfill by asking these questions. And second, once you know the objective, then how to meet those expectations. Okay, so these are the 2 key aspects that you need to know. Now 5 things we will discuss today, and then we will finish the session. All right, so let's start with first. I'll show you syllabus. You take few seconds to look at it and tell me your first impression. Okay. So what is your first impression? So even though we call it, this paper is of ethics, the syllabus is not centered around ethics. It has three distinct disciplines. Okay, first is ethics, what we call moral philosophy, which is on your left-hand side of column. Then middle is social psychology, and third is on the right side is public administration. And if that is the case, then GS4 is interdisciplinary in nature. Are you getting my point? And each discipline has its own approach to look at the problem and to solve the problem. Is that clear? This is the first impression. Now, if you look at first component of your syllabus known as moral philosophy, also known as ethics, it is one of the branch of philosophy that we are going to discuss later when we discuss ethics. But its main concern is to tell you what is right and wrong and how we decide it. Are you getting my point? So as a part of this, we will study where does ethics come in human life? What are those areas where we need to focus on ethics and from where we learn the ethics? Okay, then you need to also learn the contribution of philosophers and thinkers from India as well as world. Now, one interesting thing in your syllabus is nowhere they have mentioned even a single name of any philosopher. Is that clear? So you need to decide on your own what are those philosophers who are still relevant, who are important even today, even though they might have said something few thousand years back. Not only old philosophers or old age philosophers, but also contemporary. So in today's age, there are certain people who are contributing to ethics. So have they something to say about what we are doing today in terms of government, in terms of policy making, in terms of policy implementation? So what are those things and who are those people? So आपको नाम नहीं पता है, आपको डिसाइड करना है किसका स्टडी करना है, किसका अवॉइड करना है, right? Then there is a philosophical basis of governance. Philosophical basis means if you want to justify that there should be government in society, how will you justify it? Who offers that philosophical basis? And then finally, what are the different sources of ethics? From where do we learn? And are there any limitations of these sources? And what are those? Because once you know the limitations, you can keep them in mind while solving the problem. You won't offer blind solutions. Blind solutions means when you are not aware of their pitfalls. Are you getting my point? So first component of your syllabus is moral philosophy, and its main concern is to tell you what is right and wrong and how to decide this. How to means what kind of process we should adopt to decide what is right and wrong. इसको कैसे decide करना है? That is the first concern. Then second component of syllabus is social psychology. Okay, middle one. Now see, social psychology, like ethics, is a vast area. If you study ethics as a part of philosophy, it is an independent science now. Okay, there are many theories, thinkers you need to study. But they are not asking you to do all these things. They are asking you to do only things which are relevant to your field. Similarly, in social psychology, it is also as good as a vast field, a branch of psychology. But again, they have given only two topics, attitude and emotional intelligence. Now, what is the primary concern of this field, social psychology? Is not to tell you what is right and wrong. Okay, but to explain you why a person behaves when he is a part of group. Because at individual level and in society, person's behavior differs. So let me give you an example. How many of you have lived in hostels and still living? Okay, when lights are off due to power failure, how people behave? Yes, they try to create all kind of noise and din and ruckus. Do you agree? Sometimes they beat each other. They break the furniture. Next level of Tarzan. Imagine in the same hostel, the power failure has happened, lights are off, and only one person is there in the middle of the night. ऐसा करेगा वो? He will pray to all sort of gods. नो रिलीजन बार, दूसरे रिलीजन की भी गॉड को प्रेयर करेगा. He will recall all kind of ghost stories which people normally share to each other, right? Why? Because now group is not there, which had given leverage to such behavior, right? How many of you have traveled in Mumbai locals? So there are separate bogies for women. Imagine what if a man enters by mistake. क्या हो जाएगा उसका? And that too in rush hour. He'll get nice treatment, worth remembering throughout life, right? Imagine if he enters into the same coach, but there is only one woman. Will she behave? At the most, she would angrily tell him that, please, this is not your coach, go to elsewhere. Why? Because now that group is absent. Are you getting my point? How many of you have gone to shopping with your friends? So when you are in group, you are aggressive bargaining. If the shopkeeper starts from 1,000, you start from 100. Why? Because you have support. As soon as you say 100, second wala says, sir, हमने वहां से दिया था 100. But when you are alone, would you do that? Are you getting my point? Or in picnic season, like monsoon, people go out for trekking, especially boys when they are in group. Have you seen them how they behave? All kind of adventures they attempt. Okay, especially when the members of opposite sex are present. Why? Because group is there. But when they are alone, they would behave as if, coolest guy on the earth. Okay, next version of Bhagwan Ram, Maryada Purushottam. Nazar idhar bhi udhar bhi nahi hogi, spread. Why? Attitude. So this social psychology offers you an explanation. Why? Because tomorrow, as a civil servant, you are not only going to deal with individuals. At the most, you are also going to deal with groups. Okay, your office mates, teammates, your superiors, then people, protesters, even country like India, which is full of religious people, right? We are a religious country, right? Our sense of who we are is closely connected with our religion or culture. So every month, now and then, we have some sort of festivals going. Sometimes Ganpati, then Navratri, now Diwali, then we have Makar Sankrant, and almost every month you have something is going on. Then some yatra, holy places have their own events. So there you need to have crowd management technique. Okay, because when people are in group, sometimes it may result in panic because of rumors. That Mumbai incidents, Elephant Stanka, that was because of rumor, but it led to stampede and death of many people. So as an administrator, you should be actively aware of all these things. Now see, whatever examples I have given you were funny, but if you look at other side, like serious and brutal examples like gang rapes or mob lynching or communal riots, they are also the manifestation of group behavior. Okay, people who were ordinary turn out to be killers because of group. Okay, even the rapist might not have thought that he would rape someone and kill also. But why does that happen? Because group makes that person a beast. So as an administrator, you should be ready with the strategies to diffuse the situation. Are you getting my point? So that people's collective energies or emotions will be channelized in right direction. Is that clear? So you should be aware of certain techniques of psychology to handle the group, to respond to the group. And that group might be placed in various situations. Okay, sometimes the group might be of youth. Sometimes a group might be of unemployed youth. Sometimes a group might be of people who are stuck in disaster-prone areas like flood, earthquake. So you need to be aware how they would behave as a group, and you should be ready with the strategies to deal with them. So that is the primary concern of middle wala portion, social psychology. But it will never try to tell you what is right and wrong. That is the job of ethics. So sometimes some questions are based on combined scenario. They would also be based on ethical aspect. They are also based on social psychological aspect. And you should be able to use them creatively. Okay. And now third, public administration. Now, public administration as an activity is as old as civilization. Civilization means from the day human society has come into existence, administration is needed. Even a small unit like family, you need administration, right? So who will do what? इसको बोलते separation of labor or division of labor. वो भी चाहिए ना? Without that, you cannot achieve common objective. So जहाँ भी wherever more than two people come together for certain objective, you need administration. Now, Indian administration or public administration is not that simple. It is complex entity. It has its own existence. Okay, it has its own consideration. So, how do you decide right and wrong in the field of administration? That is the main consideration of public administration. This third component. So, because once you are selected, you are going to work for more than 20 years in the same field. And to get your things done or to make or to attain your objective, you have to work with people. You have to motivate them, inspire them. Sometimes you have to use carrot and stick policy, rewards and punishment mechanism to get things done. So before you do that, you should be accurately aware of what is right and wrong in the field of administration. So in that, look at some of the components like aptitude and foundational values. So values help you to decide what is right and wrong sometimes. Or civil services values or ethics in public administration or probity in governance. How to bring highest moral principle in governance so that governance will work towards the objective of public welfare. Okay, so these are the main components of your syllabus, and there will be case studies based on all three. All right. So three components are there. One is ethics, which is concerned with right and wrong and how to decide it. Second, social psychology. It is concerned with a person's behavior as a part of group and how to respond to that. And third, ethics in public administration. So in the field of administration, how you look at ethics. Now see, this third aspect of public administration is not centered around individuals. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it is centered around systems. So whatever solutions you offer in third component are not individualistic solutions. They are systemic solutions. What system should you do as a part of your reforms? Okay? So this is in nutshell syllabus. Have you understood the syllabus? There are three main components and each discipline has its own approach to look at the problem. That is the crux of this slide. Okay. Now next, question paper. So take few seconds and tell me what is your first impression of the question paper. So there are two sections. Each section is for 125 marks. So your paper weightage is 250 marks. And you need to write this entire paper in 3 hours. Okay. If you count the number of words you need to write in 3 hours, they amount to around 3,000 words. How many of you have written this much length of paper in your graduation and post-graduation? Yes, have you written 3,000 words in 3 hours? Correct. So if you have not, then you need to build a stamina. Because in actual exam, you have 2 papers in a day. So आपको 6 घंटा लिखना है दिन में. And those who don't have enough practice, by the time they reach the middle of the paper, their hand get paralyzed. Why? Because muscle training has not happened. वो stamina building नहीं हुआ है. So it's like running marathon. You can't run it the day you want. You need to build up that stamina over a period. So from the day one, you should start writing 1 page a day. कुछ भी लिखो. लेकिन 1 पेज हर रोज लिखना ही है. Then it will be a part of your habit. And one more thing, you need to write it on blank page, not on ruled page. So henceforth, in class also, you need not bring ruled page book. Okay? Blank pages पे ही लिखना है, वो other डालना है. Because in actual exam, you are given blank pages. And that too in box format. All right. Now, if you look at section 8, it is known as theory section. Minimum 12 questions are asked. Sometimes there are 13 or 14. Okay. Per question weightage is 10 marks. Sometimes it is 15. And the word limit is 150 words. Okay. Mainly, there are 4 categories of questions that are asked again and again. So look at those categories. One is quote-based question. So quotes or sayings or thoughts of great people are given to you. And they ask you to explain its meaning and give example. So this is first category, quote. So for example, once there was quote of Socrates, an unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates, what it means to you, give example. So every year, almost every year, minimum 3 quotes are asked. Okay, so you need to practice how to respond to quote, how to interpret them, how to make your writing insightful so that you can stand apart from the crowd. Because simple meaning can be explained by anyone. Okay, हर कोई कर सकता है simple explanation. लेकिन उसको अगर insightful बनाना है, then you need to think logically, rationally, reasoning चाहिए उसके पीछे. And then you need to also be aware of current affairs so that you can give authentic examples. Okay. Second wala hai example piece. Now the main focus in this type of question is not on concept, but your awareness of concept. So आपको concept तो दे देंगे, लेकिन वो उसके बारे में कुछ मत लिखो, उसका current affair में क्या चल रहा है, वो बताओ. And not only about current affairs, sometimes it could be also from your life. Okay, so for example, what is crisis of conscience? Have you faced any? Explain it. So पहला आपको concept मालूम होना चाहिए crisis of conscience वो कैसे होता है और मेरे life में वो कब आया. Now you can't say sir मेरे life में कभी नहीं. If you are a normal human being, everyone faces this aspect, crisis of conscience. So for that, you need to reflect on your own life as well. You need to reflect on current affairs as well, social life as well, political life as well. So second category of question also needs your awareness of current affairs. The third is about concept definition in interlinkage. Now in this, sometimes they ask you straightforward definitions like what is value, what is ethics. So you can also, write definitions from authoritative sources when they ask for definitions. But sometimes they ask you, what do you understand by ethics? Then don't simply rewrite the definition, rephrase them in your own word, paraphrase them, and then write. So there your own understanding is checked of a particular concept and not simply remembering the definition. And sometimes they ask you the relation between 2 concepts. So for example, in what way emotional intelligence helps in ethical decision making? So you should be aware of first EI, emotional intelligence, second ethical decision making, and the connection between the 2. And here, while explaining the linkage, you need to also give exam. And finally, application to public or private life or current affairs. So sometimes they are not simply asking concept. By using that concept, they are asking you to solve some problems. So here again, you need to be aware of current affairs, where people have attempted to do it in the past. And you have to simply say it. So in all the type of questions, one way or other way, you need examples. Pure theoretical question, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं होता है. Are you getting my point? So even though proverbially, famously, it is theory section, it is not theory section. It is theory plus current affairs section. Are you getting my point? And in that sense, this paper is dynamic. Dynamic means it is based on current affairs. Now, once you go to section B, almost every year they have asked only 6 case studies per year. Okay, and per case study marks range from 20 to 25. If 20 mark question is there, then word limit is 250. If 25 markers is there, then word limit is 300. Then the case studies are divided into main 2 categories, what we call OBC and SPC. OBC means option-based case studies, and second, situation or issue-based case study. But in option-based case study, sometimes they give you option and ask you to evaluate. Evaluate means uska merit demerit batao, positive negative batao. But sometimes they don't give you option. They ask you to create the option. So they simply ask you, what are the options available to you? Evaluate them. So you need to learn about what are those approaches or strategies which you can use to create the option. Okay. In situation-based case study or issue-based case study, they are not interested in option. They are interested in finding out the root cause of the problem, understanding the problem, and look at the policy solutions. Are you getting my point? So you have to handle 6 case studies. इसमें OBC का number ज़्यादा होता है, option based case study का. Theme based or issue based case studies are relatively less in numbers. So for that we will have at least 4 lectures towards the end of course. Because before we move towards case study, you need to build a theoretical foundation. Are you getting my point? So this is your paper, which looks like. Is that clear? So altogether, you need to handle around 18 minimum questions in 3 hours. In section A, 12. In section B, 6. 18 questions you need to answer. So time management is crucial. If you look at section A, per question you have roughly 7 minutes to respond. If you look at section B, you have 14 to 15 minutes. So 90 minutes for each section. 180 minutes for entire paper, 3 hours. Is that clear? And so from the day one, you should keep a habit of writing 1 page a day. मन से लिखो, देख के लिखो, कुछ भी करो. But 1 page a day must be your routine. Is that clear? All right, next. We will look at some previous year questions just to give you an idea as to how they are asking the questions before we start discussing reference books. So पहला वाला देखिए, पढ़िए. Have you observed one thing? In one question, they are giving you more than one question. So I often tell my students, in GS4 paper, you don't have scope to write introduction, main content and conclusion. Are you getting my point? Because when you have multiple questions to address within the same word limit, you have to start directly hitting the bullseye. Because once you start giving introduction, you're losing the space and word limit. And the space which is given to you is fixed. You can't attach supplement. That luxury is not there. Is that clear? So आपको क्या करना है? Directly answer देना है. उसका introduction नहीं देना है. So इसमें क्या लिखा है? What do you understand by values and ethics? So values write it in your own words. Values का definition. Ethics, write it in your own words. Second, application wala hai. In what way it is important to be ethical along with being professionally competent. So you have to imagine a scenario where a person is skilled one, knowledgeable one, but his moral compass has been, messed up, you can say. For example, a doctor who is a good surgeon, better surgeon, skilled surgeon, but वो इधर का kidney इधर कर देता है. So that itself indicates what is the significance of ethics. So almost every year they're asking you this question again and again in various words: the significance of ethics in public life, one way or other way. So as a part of your preparation, your short notes has to be ready along with examples. कि कहाँ आपने देखा है कि लोग तो स्किल्ड थे लेकिन उसके इथिक्स में कुछ तो गड़बड़ था, तो इथिक्स का इंपॉर्टेंस उससे हाईलाइट हो जाता है. That you would trust a less skilled person who have better ethics than more skilled person who has wrong ethics. Are you getting my point? So ये आपको convincing explanation देना है उसका क्यों. ठीक है. Second, देखिए दूसरा वाला सवाल इंटरेस्टिंग है. So crisis of value. What do you understand by crisis of value? Yes. When we say there is a crisis, means what? Okay. Or crisis of values. Anything else? Water crisis. How you look at it? Shortage, scarcity, right? Similarly, values are getting scarce in society. They are not being displayed. They are not being visible. Why? Because the way we look at life, our perception is what? Narrow. In modern times, means contemporary times, the way we look at life, that perspective is narrow perspective. It is not broader. And that is why you have to discuss that now. Q. Q ऐसा होता है. What are the reasons? And you have to give example and justify it. So इसके लिए कुछ theories भी है which can help for this. So some theories may say that you don't have good role models or wrong role models. Okay, who have started defining what is good life for you, and you accept that definition. Okay, in society we don't have good role models. Our role models are wrong ones, celebrities who show ostentatious display of wealth. Now see, this is not a statement on individual person. This is a statement on society. As a society, we have failed to display good values. Right? That is what the statement is. You don't have to counter this statement. आपको इसको oppose नहीं करना है, आपको इसको prove करना है. Is that clear? Okay, next वाला topic देखते हैं, moral philosophy का. This is based on thinkers. Look at the question. The good of an individual is contained in the good of all. Okay. What do you understand by this statement? How can this principle be implemented in public life? Now, as soon as you look at the statement, you should be aware of who are those thinkers who have stated this principle. Once you realize this, you are already aware of the application of the statement, because that has already been discussed in the class. ये किसने कहा है, कब कहा है, कि कौन से कॉन्टेक्स्ट में कहा है, इसके एग्जाम्पल क्या हो सकते हैं और इसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कैसे किया जाता है. That thing has already been discussed and you are ready with the answer. Is that clear? So this is the benefit of studying ethics and thinkers. Second वाला देखिए, specific question है. Analyze John Rawls's concept of social justice in Indian context. Now let me tell you difference. In first question, you can write common sense answer, right? Even if you are not aware of thinker, still you can write the answer in first question. But those who write from the understanding of thinker will have better marks. But in second question, you cannot write commonsensical answer, right? You need to be aware of who is John Rawls, what is his concept of social justice, and what is his relation with the Indian context or Indian society. So there are certain questions who are open, too general, which can be answered out of common sense. But there are certain questions which are too specific, and you cannot answer them from your common sense understanding. You need to be aware of specific thinker, his theories, and application. Is that clear? You look at third wala. So again, this question can be answered from ethics perspective and from social psychology perspective as well. Why? Because anger is an emotion as well. Are you getting my point? But this is also quote. So you don't have to always answer from thinker's perspective. Sometimes the question is what it means to you, how you interpret the quote. So आपका interpretation भी उतना ही important है. And that interpretation gives reflection as to what is your personality. Are you getting my point? Then next is about social psychology. Simple सवाल आते हैं देखिए. So this is known as application-oriented question. They have made one statement that young people with ethical conduct are not willing to come forward to join active politics. Now your job is to suggest steps to motivate them. Now this question can be answered from three perspectives. One is ethics. Second, social psychology. Why? Because young people is a group and they have certain attitudes, right? And third, from system point of view, that what are the deficiencies in system which have demotivated the young people? How can you remove these deficiencies and motivate the young people? Is that clear? So as soon as a question comes to you, you should be able to locate into the syllabus. इस syllabus से कौन से part से मैं इसको आंसर कर सकता हूँ, कौन सा part इस्तेमाल करके I can provide some constructive steps. ठीक है. Second वाला देखिए. Now, another interesting thing, there are three questions in one question. So do you think there is scope to write introduction and conclusion? You have to start directly writing the answer. So what is emotional intelligence? Give definition. Second, how can it be developed in people? Give steps. And third, how does it help an individual in taking ethical decisions? So explain the process. So you have to divide 150-word answers into three parts. So there is no scope to write introduction, main body, and content. So they want crisp answer, lucid answer, to the point. Is that clear? So this is about social psychology. Then ethics in public administration. देखिए ये सवाल. So very specific. आप मन से कुछ नहीं लिख सकते. Unless you have read that report, second ARC, Public Service Code, right? Second वाला देखिए. Do you think you can write out of common sense? No. So see, keep in mind, ethics is no longer a merely commonsensical paper. Okay, so when it was there in 2013-14, many toppers had claimed that ethics can be written out of common sense. That's not entirely true. You need to have specific awareness of certain concepts, definitions, their applications. Okay. So again, there are 3 questions. And you need to provide answer to each in 50 words, then only you can adhere to word limit. So from the day one, when you are preparing notes for your section 8, you should make a habit of writing them in 150 words. Then writing answer will be a familiar exercise. Don't matter. Because if you prepare lengthy notes, then making them crisp in the exam hall will be another task. So पहले से आपको ये आदत लगनी चाहिए. Habit. Is that clear? All right. Now let's look at a case study. I'll show you this case study. Is it visible? Please read. Do you think the case is so simple as it appears? No. Because the person who is asking is your superior. And one of the tenets of administration is to follow your orders of superior. So you should know the instances where you can disobey the order and how you can disobey the order. So as soon as you look at the case, you should be able to locate it in the principles through which you can solve the problem. Because this is not a simple problem, right? Is it not? Because once you disclose the information, then the builder is likely to get benefited. Then once you do that, what are the principles that you are violating? What are the values that you are violating, which are adhered by administration? So one of the value that is propounded by administration is equality. So are you not discriminating? And what kind of discrimination is that? Is that allowed in the administration? All these kind of questions you need to raise and then answer. So first you have to create the options, and then you have to explicitly tell what are the benefits of the option and what are the drawbacks of the option. And then you have to give final course of action along with justification. Is that clear? But in this case study, they have not given you option. But if you look at earlier case study, this one. So these 3 options are given already. Are you getting my point? And they are asking you to evaluate the option. So in both the cases, you should be able to write clearly what are the merits and demerits. Then only you can write case study well. So certain case study have their own structure of answer. This is OBC A. But there are certain case study which doesn't have their own structure. You can come up with the structure depending on the demand of the question. Is that clear? So ये देखिए, ये वाला केस स्टडी, इसको बोलते हैं हम इश्यू बेस्ड केस स्टडी. पढ़िए एक बार. Now, do you think single person can address this issue? What is this issue? Simply environment versus development, right? So do you think single person can address this issue? No. So you have to think in terms of system, not as an individual. So what kind of system we need so that this issue can be handled well without having lose-lose situation, rather having win-win situation. Win-win means we will have development as well, but we will protect environment as well. Are you getting my point? So this needs different approach. Okay, so there are 4 approaches in case studies, and we will discuss each of them in detail along with the relevant example. Is that clear? Some case study like this one particularly, they don't give you too much information. इसमें ज़्यादा कुछ दिया है क्या आपको? नहीं. It's hardly 4 or 5 lines. But based on that, you need to write 250-word answer. So sometimes your general awareness helps. But if you look at last 2 to 3 year trend, case studies length is on an average 400 plus words. Are you getting my point? Case studies length is on an average 400 word plus, and your answer length has to be 250. And this is a contradiction. Is it not? Paradox है ना? सवाल सब बड़ा है, आपको आंसर छोटा में लिखना है. And there comes, your writings. कि आपको to the point लिखना है, verbose नहीं लिखना है. जो case study में लिखा है उसको ही repeat नहीं करना है. उसके बारे में लिखना है, लेकिन उसको नहीं लिखना है. समझ में आ रहा है आपको? So that you need to learn again and again. Okay, तभी आपका answer it can stand apart from the crowd. Okay, all right. So this is enough about model questions. Let's look at some of the study resources. Books you need to refer. If you want to start from basic, write down 2 resources which I have not mentioned here. 11th-12th standard philosophy book. 11th, 12th standard philosophy books of Maharashtra State Board. Maharashtra State Board, which are available on eBal Bharati. You can download in PDF format. Okay. Then 11th-12th standard books of psychology. 11th-12th standard books of psychology of Maharashtra State Board. So these 4 books will help you in basics. Okay, but you have to stick to the syllabus. You don't have to read everything. So from philosophy, you have to read about ethics. Okay, and from psychology, you have to read about these 2 topics, emotions and attitude. Is that clear? You don't have to read entire book, only selective topics. Then for thinkers, write down Justice by Michael Sandel. Justice by Michael Sandel. Michael Sandel is a professor from Harvard University. And he has written a book about various ethical theories and their application, along with plenty examples. And at least once you need to read the book completely. Then you can read selectively only those thinkers which we are going to cover in the class. So there are 6 thinkers mainly we are going to cover in the class who are influential. That much you need to read again. One more good thing about this book is this book has been converted into a lecture series. And those lectures are conducted at Harvard University. Okay, in a large auditorium full of students. And the interaction between Professor Michael Sandel and students is shown. And those all lectures are available on YouTube by saying name, Justice by Michael Sandel. Okay, YouTube lectures. 19 videos are there, each video of roughly 40 minutes. You should watch it along with subtitles. Because most of the videos we are going to replicate in the classroom. Okay, some of the thought experiment particularly. we are going to replicate in the classroom, and that will give you better insight and revision about the thinkers. Is that clear? So आपको किताब भी पढ़ना है, and this book is also available in PDF format on Google. You can search it. Even if you don't want to purchase it, it is still available on Google. Okay. Second resource है NCERT's 11-12 psychology textbooks for social psychology based topic. These are also better books for psychology, especially those who opt for psychology optional. They go for these primary readings. So I'll tell you chapter number. From 11th standard, you should read 9th chapter. 9th chapter from 11th standard. And from 12th standard, you need to read 6th and 7th chapter. 6th and 7th chapter. Third is second ARC. ARC का long form लिखिए. Administrative Reforms Commission. Second ARC fourth report. Ethics in Governance. Ethics in Governance. That is for your third component of syllabus, public administration. Your almost 80% of syllabus of public administration is covered from this report. And this is an authoritative document of the government of India. Okay. And the speciality of all these resources is they are not written for UPSC exam. So in that sense, they are unbiased. Okay. Whatever resources you have written, they are not written for competitive exam. So they offer you pure view of the theory, pure view of the concept, which is not often found in classroom notes. Okay, classroom notes, they try to always connect you what you study with the exam. That should not happen initially. It should be purely learning theories, thinkers, their application. Then you can go to exam. Okay. Then next is Good Practices Handbook by Niti Aayog. You might be aware of this institution, NITI. Good Practices Handbook by Niti Aayog. This is needed for example purpose. So Niti Aayog has given you list of examples of good work done by administration, especially at district level. Similarly, every year in India, we give good governance prizes, okay, nationally for the better work done by officers. You should collect those examples from current. ऐसे कौन से ऑफिसर्स हैं जिन्होंने ये इनिशिएटिव लेके अच्छे काम किए, and those could be better examples for your GS. Next is study material or notes by the Unique Academy. It will cover your syllabus. Okay, as per syllabus, इनका compilation हुआ है, preparation हुआ है, drawn from different sources put together. Okay, but sometimes it may happen that the language of the note may appear too theoretical. So what we advise here, you should prepare notes on notes. Okay. By the time topic is covered in the class, you should go to the note, read it, and convert it into crisp notes. So running notes in the class and notes from the notes will help you to consolidate your material for GS. And then there is final resource. Ethics Integrated and Aptitude, Answer Writing and Essential Guide, published by Unique, in which we have provided model answers for previous year questions from 13 to 2020, along with short notes on variety of topics. So this book helps you in answer writing. You can purchase this towards the end of your course. Okay. So once your course is over, once your syllabus is done, Once you have prepared the notes, once you have get them, you know, attested from me that whether they are in right direction or not, then you start writing the answer. And this guide will help you in writing the answer along with my feedback. Okay. So initially, there should not be too much emphasis on answer writing. There should be emphasis on conceptual clarification and its application in current affairs. No doubt, we are going to write some of the answers in the classroom itself that will give you an idea as to how to write the answer. But this much is enough initially. But once your notes are thoroughly prepared, then you start writing PYQs. That is more than enough. Is that clear? So these three components were about preparation part. One was syllabus. In that we discussed there are three parts of syllabus, right? Ethics, social psychology, and public administration. Each part has its own concern and focus and way of handling the issue. Second was about paper. In paper, we looked at two sections, section A, section B, right? Section A is of theory, but it is not merely theory. It is along with theory and example. There are 4 categories of questions in section A. And in section B, you have case studies, right? And in case studies, you have 2 types of case studies, OBC and SBC. Altogether, you have to write 3,000 words. So from the day when you should start writing 1 page a day. And then we saw some of the previous year questions, their nature, their demand. And now we looked at books, which you need to study. And these are more than enough. Okay, you need not read beyond it. Once you are thorough with all these sources, then you can use internet to discriminate. Okay, by applying filters. Is that clear? All right. Now, next part is how to excel in GS. So once you know these 3 parts, you have to connect them to each other. So called the triangulation. Okay, एक दूसरे को connect करो, you will get bird view of the paper. Now, next part is how to score well in this paper so that you can stand apart from the crowd. Because if you look at previous year results or few years result, GS4, essay and optional are the game changers. Okay, so those who appear in the first 200 rank, they have better marks in these 3 papers compared to others. On an average, topper get almost same marks in GS1. But the major difference is done in essay, ethics, and optional. So study them wisely. Okay. Now, some important points. First, why GS4? What is your answer? ये पेपर क्यों आया है आपके सिलेबस में? What is their primary purpose? Primary purpose क्या है इस पेपर को आने के लिए? क्या लगता है आपको? वो तो बाद में ठीक है, पहला पर्पस क्या है? प्राइमरी नो फर्स्ट इज एग्जाम के लिए लाया है ना वो, तो एग्जाम का पर्पस क्या है? करेक्ट, टू रिक्रूट पीपल. हाउ? बाय चेकिंग देयर एथिक्स. है ना, ये पेपर आपको अगर वो लिखने के लिए बोल रहे हैं तो उसका प्राइमरी पर्पस क्या है? दे वांट टू चेक योर मोरल प्रिंसिपल्स. मोरली आप कैसे हैं? आर यू द राइट काइंड ऑफ पर्सन फॉर दिस जॉब और नॉट? बट नेक्स्ट सवाल आपके मन में आना चाहिए, दिस वन. कैन यू चेक समबडीज एथिक्स थ्रू रिटन आंसर्स? People are smart enough to write politically correct answers, constitutionally correct answers, ethically correct answers, no matter what their values are. ऐसे ही ना लोग तो बोलेंगे सर आप हमको सवाल बताओ, हमें मालूम है क्या लिखना है, आपको क्या चाहिए हम जानते हैं, हम उतना ही दे देंगे, no matter what are our values. So even if I am patriarchal, I would write that men and women should work, shoulder to shoulder, and all kind of opportunities should be given to women and they can do anything. All kind of language I can put into my answer. Right? If you ask me about dowry, then I would write taking dowry is a crime. It is a great menace to our society. It is a evil that has afflicted our society for more than centuries and taking toll on our half of the population and so forth. Even though when tomorrow I will become officer, I will take highest dowry. ऐसा हो सकता है ना? People may not write what they truly feel. They would only write what is expected from them. इसको बोलते हैं politically correct, है ना? So इसको बोलते हैं हम possibility of deception. People would try to deceive the examiner, है ना? They would write in such a way that examiner would be led to believe that this guy is really an epitome of ethics, paragon of ethics. ऐसा बोल सकता है ना? So do you know the story of that guy who was caught copying in the exam? In civil services main exam, the guy was using due to technology to write papers, and the irony is he was selected for IPS in earlier attempt, and he was topper of ethics in earlier attempt. Can you imagine the embarrassment to UPSC? कि इस गधे को हमने सबसे ज्यादा मार्क्स दिए हैं ethics में और ये अब कॉपी कर रहा है. So the system is not perfect. Are you getting my point? In the language of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, a system is as good as the main operating. सिस्टम लोगों को परफेक्ट नहीं बना सकता. अगर लोग खुद से ही इम्परफेक्ट है, सिस्टम उनको परफेक्ट नहीं बना सकता. People would always try to find flaws and loopholes. So इसको बोलते हैं possibility of deception. ऐसा हो सकता है. और एक चीज हो सकती है which is interesting, जिसको बोलते हैं हम theory practice divide. इसका मतलब है theoretically you believe today that you are honest person and you want to be honestly sincere. आपका intention भी वही है. आपका intention ये भी है कि you want to join civil services only for the social reason. You want to serve the society and not for any other purpose. वो power नहीं चाहिए, वो पैसा नहीं चाहिए, वो aura नहीं चाहिए, glamour नहीं चाहिए. You truly want to serve the society and you are a really good person. But is there guarantee that you will remain good once you get into the system? No, because power also corrupts a person. जिसने अपने लाइफ में इतना पैसा नहीं देखा है, उसका भी पैर फिसल सकता है. या फिर ऐसा भी हो सकता है ना, that you would succumb to the pressure from the above, and even though you are not willing, you may end up doing wrong things. Is that clear? ये हो सकता है ना, आदमी अच्छा है तो बुरा बन सकता है. आज अच्छा है, आज उसके वैल्यूज अच्छे हैं, वो बोल रहा है कि मुझे सोशली डिवोट करना है लाइफ, वो कर भी रहा है. बट टुमारो व्हेन यू बिकम पार्ट ऑफ द सिस्टम, समटाइम्स सिस्टम मोल्ड्स यू लाइक दैट इवन दो यू आर नॉट विलिंग. अगर ऐसा हो रहा है तो फिर क्यों दिया है? ये हमें और आपको समझ में आ रहा है. तो वो जहां बैठे हैं यूपीएससी में, दे आर मच स्मार्टर देन अस. उनका वर्क लाइफ इतना है कि जितना हमारा लाइफ भी नहीं है. समझ में आ रहा है? They have worked more than 30-40 years into the system, so they can judge people well than us. समझ में आ रहा है आपको? फिर उनको भी मालूम होगा कि लोग ऐसे कर सकते हैं. फिर आपको पूछना है कि अगर उनको मालूम है फिर भी वो हम क्यों बोल रहे हैं कि ये पेपर लिखो पढ़ो, क्यों बोल रहे हैं? So you have to ask purpose of GS, कि ये सब करने के बाद भी GS4 क्यों लाया है? Why are they giving us opportunity? So इसका रीजन मैं आपको पहले ही बता देता हूँ. That like any other subject, GS4 is not taught formally in schools and colleges. Compulsory. इतिहास आपको compulsory कभी सिखाया है किसी? कभी भी नहीं. Psychology सिखाया है? Unless you opt for that subject, you won't be taught. And again, once you opt for that subject is purely theoretical. उसमें application area कम रहता है. So UPSC aware of this drawback of our education system. But by the time now, education is getting developed and evolving, our society is also evolving. So administrators need to be aware of what is right and wrong, especially in complex setting. So as a subject and as a paper, it has different objectives. वो हमें अभी discuss करने हैं. देखो, as a subject, what they are trying to make it happen. वो क्या करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं? First, to reinforce values. इसका मतलब ऐसा है, whatever values you believe that you have got, have you given serious thought to it? Serious thought का मतलब उसके ऊपर डीपली थिंक करना, कि अगर आप ऐसा सोचते हो कि आज टॉलरेंस इज माय वैल्यू, have you given really thought that why you need to be tolerant? Have you discovered the motive behind this? If you believe that you are an honest person and honesty is your value or punctuality is your value, have you thought about it? Because unless you think about it deeply, you cannot reinforce it, consolidate it. And values are really tested in the time of crisis. जब crisis आ जाता है, pressure आ जाता है, whether you stick to the values or not really decides whether it is your value or not. समझ में आ रहा है? जब सब अच्छा हो तो कोई भी बता सकता है ना कि मेरी वैल्यू ऑनेस्ट थी, but when I am hungry for 4 days, that will decide whether I will remain honest or not. समझ में आ रहा है? So ये जो अपॉर्चुनिटी है to reinforce your value is given by UPSC. वो बता रहा है कि आप सोचो, take this time to study ethics, to reflect on your values, who you are, what are your values, why are they your values. Even simple questions like why I want to join civil services, इसके ऊपर भी आपको सोचना है, because that becomes your long term motivation for preparation and working in the system. क्योंकि सब ग्रीन नहीं है इस सिस्टम में, समझ में आ रहा है आपको? जो आपका परसेप्शन होता है बिफोर एंटरिंग द सिस्टम एंड आफ्टर एंटरिंग द सिस्टम, उसमें 180 डिग्री भी डिफरेंस हो सकता है, समझ में आ रहा है? When you are entering the system, you tend to be idealistic, but once you enter into the system, you become more practical. So ये जो डिफरेंस है आपको समझ में आ रहा है, और while studying itself, you get to know the system well. जब अभी आप तो नो वाइस हो, फ्रेशर्स हो, right? But once you study polity, governance, politics, pol science, and you're optional, you get to know system well. And sometimes you get, depressed by what is happening now, and you tend to think that क्या करना है मुझे, मैं अकेला थोड़ी कर सकता हूँ. ऐसे भी सवाल आते हैं मन में कि मैं अकेला क्या करूंगा, अगर सब जगह ऐसे ही चल रहा है, लोग ऐसे ही कर रहे हैं, वो आईपीएस बंदा है कुछ भी नहीं कर पा रहा है, वो आईएएस बंदा है कुछ नहीं कर पा रहा है, तो मैं क्या करूँ? So UPSC is telling you, take this time, reflect on what you can do, why you can do, and whether you can pursue this for long term. This is not something, yes, this is not something which you can leave at your own will. So to help you to reinforce your value is primary objective of this paper. Okay. Second, to critically examine moral practices. Now, why this is important? Sometimes it happens from the social economic background from where we come, we tend to perceive moral practices of those group as correct. So जहां से भी हम आ रहे हैं वहां के moral practices हमें सही लगते हैं. जैसे मानो if you are from rural area, then giving secondary position to women appears just. Are you getting my point? क्योंकि आप बचपन से लेके जवानी तक वैसे ही देख के बड़े पले, then you tend to think यही सही तरीका है. समझ में आ रहा है? Or in villages, sometimes old age people particularly, they tend to call each other by taking caste names. आपने देखा है, जाति का नाम लेके एक दूसरे को बुलाते हैं. And you think this is the right way to do. Why? क्योंकि सभी वही कर रहे हैं. समझ में आ रहा है आपको? So UPSC बोल रहा है, no, don't think like that. Take a pause and reflect on it, whether it is itself good or bad. समझ में आ रहा है? Because it happens in society like India, women are becoming major agents of patriarchy. Have you heard about this? That women themselves are the agents or drivers of patriarchy. Why? Because they have created rewards and incentives for women to become agent of patriarchy. So a few months back there was survey of NFHS, National Family Health Survey, and they had interviewed married women, and 51% of married women had said that beating of wife by husband is good for wife. Have you heard about this survey? Please read. Can you believe? जो मार खा रहे हैं वही बोल रहे हैं कि मार खाना वो वाइफ के लिए अच्छा है. और वो क्यों? आप आपके घर में देखिए. Sometimes your grandmothers or your parents or particularly mothers tend to make disparaging comment of women, despite being women themselves. Why? Patriarchy. So ये जो moral practices है, जहां से भी आप आ रहे हो, जो भी है, discrimination हो, इनइक्वालिटी हो, इसको आप ग्रांटेड मत पकड़ो, इसको क्रिटिकली रिफ्लेक्ट करो कि ये सही है क्या, सही है तो क्यों है, गलत है तो क्यों है, इसका रीजनिंग आपको पहले से ही मालूम होना चाहिए। ठीक है। थर्ड, टू हेल्प रिजॉल्व मोरल डायलेमास. So have you faced dilemmas in your life? Yes, plenty. ये करूं कि वो करूं, बोथ आर इक्वली चैलेंजिंग, है ना। सो बहुत बार ऐसा होता है, फ्रेंड हमारे यहाँ आते हैं, उनके माँ बाप का भी फोन आता है कि ये आपके पास है क्या, तो वो तो हमारे पास नहीं होता है, वो किसी के साथ घूमने गया होता है, लेकिन हमें तो बोलना पड़ता है ना। तो डायलेमा होता है, झूठ बोलूं या सच बोलूं। झूठ बोलूंगा तो वैल्यूज के साथ कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो जाएगा, राइट, लेकिन सच बोलूंगा तो फ्रेंड की लॉयल्टी डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाएगी। सो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में ऐसे डायलेमा बहुत सारे आते हैं, ये करे कि वो करे। Sometimes two values of administration, same administration, are clashing with each other. So for example, efficiency on one hand and equality on the other hand. When you pursue the goal of equality, it may harm the efficiency, or when you pursue the goal of efficiency, it may harm the equality. So ये जो डायलेमा है, कैसे रिजॉल्व करें, कौन सा चॉइस करें, क्यों करें, इसका जस्टिफिकेशन आपको मालूम होना चाहिए। एंड फाइनली, टू ओवरकम ट्रेडिशनल बायसेस और प्रेजुडिसेस, जो भी हमारे अपब्रिंगिंग में से हमें जो मिला है पर्सपेक्टिव दुनिया का, उसको सिर्फ समझना ही है, उसको ओवरकम भी करना है। सो व्हाट वी कॉल इन मराठी कळतेपण वळतणे. हैव यू हर्ड दिस टर्म? वी नो दिस इज रॉन्ग, बट वी टेंड टू कंटिन्यू टू दिस, एंड वी नो दिस इज राइट, बट वी डोंट हैव विल पावर टू डू दिस. ये जो ओवरकम करना है, इसके लिए कन्विक्शन बिल्ड करना होता है. ये कन्विक्शन बिल्ड करना एथिक्स का काम. Because unless you have strong conviction, you cannot change your biases. Conviction पहले पैदा करना है. जो पुराने ख्याल है, पुराने assumption है, उसको destroy करके, those should be replaced by new one, which have some basis in reality. Okay. Now, as a subject, all right, but what as a paper? A subject is all right, but what about paper as a part of exam? So first, they want to check your conviction, that whatever you are saying, are you saying for the sake of saying? सिर्फ कहना इसलिए कह रहे हो, politically correct, सब गुड छान छान, ऐसा नहीं है. You need to be convinced. You need to convince examiner that you mean it. You have understood its importance. वो आपको दिखाना है. और वो conviction कब आ सकता है? When you think about it well. तभी conviction आ सकता है. Otherwise conviction दिखाने के लिए कभी नहीं दिखा सकते आप. उसके लिए आपका thought process वैसे build-up होना चाहिए. Second, to check your spontaneous responses. Spontaneous का मतलब क्या है? On the spot. So how many of you have faced SSB interview? In SSB interview, they give you SRT, situation reaction test. They show you one picture and they give you 30 seconds to write one sentence about it. So picture देखते ही आपके मन में जो पहला सवाल statement आता है वो आपको लिखना. ऐसे इस एग्जाम में, in order to respond to a question in section A, you have got 7 minutes. So बहुत बार ऐसा होता है जो अंदर है वही बाहर आ जाता है, because you don't have time to think and write, manufacture beautiful answer. क्योंकि बहुत बार ऐसा हो जाता है पहला तो आंसर आप अच्छे से लिख सकते हो, लेकिन बाद में टाइम जब कम रहता है, बचता है, you tend to write what is inside and it shows inconsistency. पहले आपने कुछ एक बोला है, दूसरी बार आप कुछ और बोल रहे हैं. समझ में आ रहा है? तो ये स्पॉन्टेनियस रिस्पॉन्स भी चेक करना है आपको. ठीक है. थर्ड, टू चेक योर रिकंसिलिएशन ऑफ आइडियल एंड प्रैक्टिस. तो बहुत बार ऐसा होता है, पीपल टेंड टू बिकम आइडियलिस्ट. मैं सब भ्रष्टाचार खत्म कर दूंगा, ओके, मैं हमेशा ऑनेस्टली रहूंगा. ये आइडियलिस्टिक हो गया. बट सेइंग mere idealistic thing is not convincing, is it not? अगर आपको भ्रष्टाचार खत्म करना है तो कैसे करोगे? उसका कुछ तो प्रैक्टिकल एग्जांपल दे दो. That you would appoint a person, you would create a system, you would create a law, you would create a mechanism. इसका कुछ तो एग्जांपल देना चाहिए आपको. उसको बोलते हैं reconciliation. Means you are putting together or integrating ideas with practice. And finally, to check your moral perception. Moral perception का मतलब है how you perceive things morally in terms of right and wrong. जो हो रहा है उसको आप सही क्यों बोल रहे हो, गलत क्यों बोल रहे हो. सो आपके आजू बाजू में एज अ पर्सन मेनी थिंग्स डू हैपन. जैसे मैंने आपको NFHS का सर्वे दे दिया कि वुमन को देख रहा है कि husband is beating the wife, but still they are saying it is right for. Are you that kind of person? समझ में आ रहा है? Are you the patriarchal person? Are you the casteist person? क्योंकि ये जो values है, these are antithetical to modern democratic societies. समझ में आ रहा है? जो modern democratic society है, those should be operated by what constitutional values. लेकिन आप जो बोल रहे हो, वो उसके antithetical होगा, oppose में होगा, then you are not right kind of person. UPSC would say no, come next time. ऐसा हो सकता है ना? तो वो उनको चेक करना है कि मोरल आउटलुक आपका कैसा है, आप कौन सी चीजें कैसे जस्टिफाई कर रहे हो और क्यों कर रहे हो, कौन से आधार पे कर रहे हो, ये उनको चेक करना है. So these are the objectives of GS. While writing your answers and studying GS, you have to keep this objective in your mind. Your starting point of your own studies. क्यों? क्योंकि इस पेपर में they are looking for reflection of your personality. They are not merely checking your knowledge or awareness. They are also checking who you are. So आपको पहले खुद का स्टडी करना है कि मैं कौन हूँ, मेरी वैल्यूज क्या है, मैं कहाँ से आता हूँ, मेरे assumptions क्या है, मान्यता क्या है, एटीट्यूड्स क्या है, और वो किस चीजों के आधार पे है, कहाँ से आए हैं, किसी ने सिखाया है क्या, या मैंने खुद से एब्जॉर्ब किया है क्या, ये आपको चेक करना है. ठीक है ना? हाउ टू फुलफिल दिस ऑब्जेक्ट, इसके कुछ डूज एंड डोंट्स हैं, मैं आपको बताता हूँ, देन यू विल रियलाइज. पहले देखो, 1, try to give authentic example. Authentic means believable. Okay, and those should be drawn from current affairs. जो रियल होता है ना, सच में हुआ है, वो ऑथेंटिक होता है. समझ में आ रहा है? बट अगर आपने मनगढ़ंत कहानियां बना दी तो उसको ऑथेंटिक नहीं बोल सकते. समझ में आ रहा है? सो इसके अगेंस्ट आपको क्या अवॉइड करना है? क्लीशेड एग्जांपल्स. क्लीशेड मींस हर कोई वही बोल रहा है, कहा सोशल मीडिया पे पढ़ा है, समझ में आ रहा है? सो उसको बोलते हैं क्लीशेड एग्जांपल. आपको टू द पॉइंट एंड रिलेवेंट एग्जांपल ही देना है, व्हिच आर ऑथेंटिक. ठीक है. सेकंड है वेल थॉट आउट जस्टिफिकेशन देना. सो जो भी आप जस्टिफाई कर रहे हो उसके बारे में आपने थोड़ा सा तो सोचा है, ये देना है. ऊपर ऊपर से लिखोगे, जिसको बोलते हैं शैलो राइटिंग, दैट वुड नेवर हेल्प यू टू फेच बेटर मार्क्स. उसको एवरेज ही मार्क्स मिलते हैं. सो इसके अगेंस्ट लोग क्या करते हैं? कैजुअल जस्टिफिकेशन. दे आर सेइंग थिंग्स फॉर द सेक ऑफ सेइंग. उनको खुद को भी मालूम नहीं होता है कि ऐसा क्यों होना चाहिए. सो फॉर एग्जांपल रिजर्वेशन पॉलिसी. ओके, इसके बारे में इवन इफ यू डोंट अग्री विद इट, स्टिल यू से ओके ओके, ये होना चाहिए, ऐसा ही होना चाहिए. सो यू टेंड टू यूज दोज वर्ड्स एंड सेंटेंसेस व्हिच अपीयर वेरी हॉलो, इसका रियलिटी के साथ कोई संबंध नहीं, आपके खुद के अजम्पशन के ऊपर है. ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए. आपका जस्टिफिकेशन अगर वेल थॉट आउट है, यू ऑलरेडी नो द एविडेंसेस फॉर द योर आर्ग्यूमेंट, इसके लिए बोलते हैं वेल थॉट आउट. जो भी आप बोल रहे हो उसका आधार आपको पहले से ही मालूम है, एंड दैट बेसिस इज रूटेड इन सम रियलिटी, सम थियरी. समझ में आ रहा है? So even if you are saying that we should adopt that principle which will lead to maximum happiness for maximum number of people, why are you saying this? Or even if you are saying we should not torture that innocent girl, even if billions of lives are at stake, why are you saying this? Are you saying this for the sake of saying, or are you really convinced? इसके लिए आपको क्या चाहिए? वेल थॉट आउट जस्टिफिकेशन होना चाहिए. Okay, and for that you need theory and example. Next, whenever you are giving definitions, try to give them precise words. So always keep in mind, for any concept, there is no single definition. There are multiple definitions. And the use of the relevant definition depending on the context of the question. वो कौन से कॉन्टेक्स्ट के ऊपर है. आप एक ही डेफिनेशन को हर जगह नहीं यूज कर सकते. So जिसको हम बोलते हैं वेग और जेनरिक डेफिनेशन. So many times people tend to write Abraham Lincoln definition when asked about democracy. You know, for the people, by the people, of the people. But that is not the only way to look at democracy. There are multiple dimensions through which you can look at the democracy. And depending on the context of your question, you can choose the definition. Is that clear? The next, try to show application to current affairs, means that you are trying to solve some problems. On the other hand, people tend to write dense and theoretical answers. वो हमेशा थिंकर के बारे में ही बोलते हैं, वो हमेशा थियरी के ही बारे में बोलते हैं. That is not desirable. Theory should be given to the extent it is asked, otherwise not. समझ में आ रहा है? Why? Because this is GS paper. GS का मतलब क्या है? General Studies paper. It should be based on general awareness. It should not be based on theoretical awareness. तो इसका एप्लीकेशन हमेशा करंट अफेयर के साथ होना चाहिए. Your answer should reflect your conviction. Conviction means that you are convinced, and it should not be superficial. It should not be run of the mill description. So ये चीजें अगर आपके आंसर में होगी, ये हमेशा चेक करते हैं. Whenever we are checking your answers, we check all these things to evaluate your answer. If these things are there in your answer, you would fetch better marks than the others. Okay, so this is a recipe. And finally, keep this sentence in mind. In GS4, it is not enough to be correct. Okay, you need to also convince the examiner that you mean it through your example and justification. So आप कौन सी चॉइस करते हो ये काफी नहीं है. आप जो भी कर रहे हो उसको कन्विंस करना है एग्जामिनर को कि ये क्यों है, ऐसा क्यों है. So your job is to persuade the examiner to your viewpoint. Sometimes both the choices are equally challenging. No choice is perfect. But when you are making your case, it should be persuasive. Is that clear? ये आपके ध्यान में रहना चाहिए while writing the answer. That is the skill you need to learn over a period of time. And this not only helps you in ethics, it also helps you in essay writing. So the day after tomorrow, we will have another session on essay. I'll be there for essay writing. So we'll discuss also how to develop your writing skills as to essay writing. All right. So this is enough for today. Now I will look at some of the frequently asked questions by aspirants. I will try to address these questions. Then you can ask me any question you want. All right. So पहला सवाल देखिए क्या पूछते हैं. Are there right and wrong answers in ethics? Isn't each individual is free to choose decides one's own ethics? So ऐसा हम हमेशा बिलीव करते हैं कि right and wrong ऐसा कुछ होता नहीं. ये person to person differ होता है ना. मुझे जो right लग सकता है वो आपको right लगे ऐसा थोड़ी नहीं. फिर ethics में कैसे देखेंगे? तो इसका आंसर ये है, as far as your ethics is concerned, it is examination paper, is it not? So there are correct answers and there are incorrect answers clearly. Because if it is not the case, how will they evaluate your answer? कुछ तो उनके सामने criteria होना चाहिए evaluation के लिए. So as far as your ethics is concerned, there are clearly right and wrong answers. और वो आपको सीखना है कि right answer किसको बोलना है, wrong किसको. Okay. See, there are certain areas in ethics where there are no conclusive answers as to what is right and wrong. लेकिन वैसे आंसर आपको कभी भी पूछे नहीं जाएंगे. इसके लिए डिफरेंट आंसर, मेरा अलग हो सकता है, आपका अलग हो सकता है. ऐसे आंसर कभी नहीं पूछे जाएंगे because evaluating then it is difficult. ठीक है. Second, do we have to write idealistic answers or practical answers? Now here, one misconception is idealistic means not practical. ऐसा लोग सोचते हैं, इसकी वजह से वो बोलते हैं. लेकिन idealistic का मतलब ये नहीं है. Idealistic का मतलब ये है driven by ideals. So ideals कौन से हैं? Values. So आपके जो आंसर है वो driven by ideals तो होने चाहिए. But while writing the answer, you have to also think about how to put those ideals into practice. So ये जो हमने बोला था reconciliation between ideals and practice, ये आपको हमेशा लिखना है. So not merely practical, not merely ideals. इसका reconciliation आपको दिखाना है. But idealistic का मतलब कभी भी ये नहीं होता that non-practical. Because UPSC will never ask you to do something which is not practical. Always keep in mind. Okay? इतना unrealistic expectation UPSC कभी नहीं करती. UPSC को मालूम है कि ये आदमी जो है वो आदमी है, वो महान आत्मा नहीं है. So आपको कभी नहीं बोलेंगे जाओ खुद को sacrifice करो. No. They would ask you to reconcile ideal with practical. वही देखना चाहता है. Third, do we have to quote philosophers in all the answers? No. Why? Because this is general studies paper. They are trying to check your ethics, not philosophers. So unless the question is particularly about that philosopher, like that John Rawls wala, you need not write about philosopher. आपको क्या करना है, उसका व्यू पॉइंट लेके आपको बताने कि ये मेरा व्यू है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है ऐसे होना चाहिए, and then you will get good marks. If you always say महात्मा गांधी ने कहा है इसलिए करना चाहिए, स्वामी विवेकानंद ने कहा है इसलिए करना चाहिए, तो बोलेंगे आप घर पे बैठो, आप रामदेव बाबा अच्छे हो सकते हो, ब्यूरोक्रेट नहीं, क्योंकि उनके कीर्तन भी वैसे ही होते हैं ना. कि उस संत ने ऐसे कहा है, कृष्ण ने ऐसे कहा है। अरे भाई तुम्हारा कुछ कहना है नहीं, क्योंकि कल एक्शन कौन लेने वाला है? आप लेने, स्वामी विवेकानंद थोड़ी आने वाला। तो आपको खुद को बोलना है कि मुझे ये लगता है, आई एम कन्विंस्ड, देन ओनली यू विल गेट बेटर मार्क्स। ठीक है। सो फिलोसोफर का नाम तब भी लिखना है जब उसके ऊपर स्पेसिफिकली सवाल आता है, अदरवाइज डोंट। ठीक है। फोर्थ, will taking philosophy as an optional help in this field? So कुछ लोग ऐसा भी ऑप्शनल क्राइटेरिया रखते हैं कि इसका मुझे बेनिफिट जीएस में भी होना चाहिए, but never ever do that. Any optional, whichever you choose, should be chosen out of your liking or love for the option. तभी आप उसमें ज्यादा घंटे पढ़ाई कर सकते हैं, because the level of optional is beyond graduation, below post graduation, ऑनर्स जिसको बोलते हैं, उसके लेवल के सवाल आते हैं। And for that you need to study it well, deeply, by taking interest. So आपको मन से पसंद होना चाहिए, तभी चूज करो, not for जीएस। क्योंकि अगर आपने ऑप्शनल लिया है तो ऑप्शनल में जो लैंग्वेज एंड पर्सपेक्टिव रहता है वो अलग रहता है, और जीएस 4 में जो पर्सपेक्टिव रहता है वो अलग रहता है। सो इट मे नॉट हेल्प यू। ठीक है। नेक्स्ट, is it necessary to use jargon or philosophical terms in answers? No, strictly avoid that. Why? Because it is again general studies people. So plain formal English language, that is the minimum requirement. Only you need to use keywords which are asked in relation to question. That's all. Otherwise, your answers written in plain English language fetch good marks. But if you deliberately use optional language, then we cut down your marks. So बहुत बार ऐसा होता है, पॉल साइंस के जो लोग होते हैं जिनका ज्ञान बहुत होता है थिंकर के बारे में, वो खुद का नॉलेज दिखाने की कोशिश करते हैं, तो हमें वहां लिखना पड़ता है, प्लीज अवॉइड योर पॉल साइंस आंसर्स। नेक्स्ट, कैन वी यूज डायग्राम्स एंड फ्लो चार्ट? ऑफ कोर्स, wherever relevant use them, because it breaks the monotony of writing the answer and it also explains your point. But don't use where it is not relevant, just for the sake of use. Wherever relevant, flow chart, circle, tree diagram, that is quite okay. Next, should I always give arguments for both the sides of the issue asked? Now this is a myth in UPSC. People tend to think कि हमें दोनों साइड का perspective देना है। नहीं, unless the question is about that. If question is asking you to give both sides, then only you should do it. But if the question is asking you to take one stand and justify it, then you should never be talking about second side, because it may appear like fence sitting, fence sitting, that you are kind of person who can't take decision. आप उसको भी सही बोल रहे हो, इसको भी सही बोल रहे हो, so आप किसी भी तरफ नहीं है। समझ में आ रहा है? ऐसा नहीं होता है एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में, you need to take decision, और डिसीजन लेने के लिए आपको एक साइड के बारे में कन्विंस होना पड़ता है, तभी आप डिसीजन ले सकते हो। आप ऐसे नहीं बोल सकते ये भी सही है, ये भी सही है, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है। ऑलराइट। 8th, can I give examples of politicians and contemporary leaders? Of course you can, but those should be proven examples. Proven means conviction हो गया है, या किसी ने अच्छा काम किया है उसका appreciation हो गया है। ऐसे जो polarizing है, divisive है या subjudice है, उसको आप चूज मत करो, क्योंकि वो divisive हो सकता है, एग्जामिनर को अच्छा नहीं लग सकता है, बायस लग सकता है, ऐसे मत चूज करो। कंट्रोवर्शियल मत चूज करो, जिसके ऊपर सेटल डिबेट है उसको चूज करो। जैसे वाटर स्कैम ऑफ बिहार, दैट इज सेटल डिबेट नाउ। कॉमनवेल्थ स्कैम, दैट इज सेटल डिबेट नाउ। लेकिन जो स्कैम अभी कंक्लूड ही नहीं हुआ है उसको स्कैम नहीं आप बोल सकते। इट्स लाइक मीडिया ट्रायल, यू आर बीइंग जज, ऐसे आप मत करो। ठीक है। Should I write in bullet points or paragraphs? Answer writing a style. So it depends on again question. अगर किसी भी सवाल में आपको लिस्ट देना है 1 2 3 4 5, then bullet points are okay. That you are writing merits, advantages, disadvantages, causes, effects, that's all. But when you are trying to prove your point by giving logical arguments, then paragraphs are must. So depending on the question, you should choose your style. एक स्टाइल सब जगह मत यूज। ठीक है। एंड फाइनली, व्हाट इज द रीजनेबल स्कोर टू टारगेट? सो अब तक का हाईएस्ट स्कोर है फिजिक्स में 153, बट वो एक्सेप्शन है। ठीक है। रिटन एग्जाम में इतना स्कोर जो होता है 150 आउट ऑफ 250 इतना नहीं आता है। सो रफली यू कैन टारगेट 110 प्लस और 120 प्लस, उतना स्कोर आप ला सकते हो। ठीक है, एंड दैट इज क्वाइट पॉसिबल इन पेपर लाइक GS4. सो ये सब अगर आपने मन में रखा जो भी डिस्कस किया है, accordingly if you shape your preparation and if you attend all the classes, make running notes, attempt the questions discussed in the class. Once the course is over, we will need at least 30 lectures to cover the syllabus. इस 30 lectures में पहले जो 4-5 लेक्चर है वो बेसिक के ऊपर है, बेसिक concepts and their dimensions. उसके बाद के 10 लेक्चर will be for western thinkers. So ethics का पार्ट कवर हो जाता है उसमें. Then next 6-7 lectures for middle part, social psychology. Okay, and remaining 13 lectures will be for public administration, case studies and remaining part. So ये जो है ये आपका syllabus कवर कर देगा. उसके बाद में आपका जॉब रहेगा to consolidate your notes, to put them together so that 40-50 पेज के होने चाहिए. इनिशियली अगर ज्यादा भी हो जाएंगे कोई बात नहीं, उसको आप फिर से क्रिस्प करके रिवाइज करके क्रिस्प कर दो. And once your notes are prepared, then you start attempting PYQs and get them evaluated. That should be your job. All right. Every kind of support will be provided to you in terms of counseling, in terms of your study plan, in terms of resources, in terms of study strategy. Whatever doubts and queries you have, that will get addressed during the course of time. The only virtue you need in this exam is not talent, is not intelligence, is consistency. Okay, we have seen 2 extreme examples where people with exceptional intelligence have failed because they were not consistent, and where people with average intelligence have passed because they were consistent. So you need to choose your strategy well, and nobody should design your strategy. At the most, they can guide you to design your own strategy, because each one of you comes with unique background. None of you is alike. So आपका strategy किसी और के साथ match नहीं होना चाहिए, because each one of you have unique strength, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. You should analyze yourself and accordingly you should design your strategy. Roughly it takes 10 to 12 months for completing main exam syllabus, क्योंकि उसमें पेपर ही 9 है, ठीक है, 9 पेपर होते हैं, तो उसको कंप्लीट करने के लिए, जस्टिस देने के लिए you need 10 to 12 months. Then as a fresher you need 5 months for prelims, क्योंकि वो भी वास्ट होता है. So accordingly you should decide your attempt कि कब अटेम्प्ट करना है, ठीक है. प्रेफरेबली हम ऐसा बोलते हैं कि जिस ईयर में बैच शुरू हो रहा है उसके नेक्स्ट ईयर का अटेम्प्ट मत, उसके नेक्स्ट टू नेक्स्ट ईयर का अटेम्प्ट. Then you get ample time for main exam, note making, PYQs, then prelims, prelim के mock test and preparation, and you have possibility of passing the prelim and go forward. आपका अटेम्प्ट ऐसा होना चाहिए in first attempt, और preparation ऐसा होना चाहिए in first attempt you should try to reach to the level of interview, because if you reach to the interview stage in first attempt, UPSC tries to select. So unless you have some serious flaws in your character, they would never reject you, because reaching to the interview stage in first attempt is a rare thing. ये बहुत लोगों को आसान नहीं होता है. Why? Again, herd mentality. जब भी वो प्रिपेयर करने लग जाते हैं, they become victim of mob attitude. कि लोग ये पढ़ रहे तो मुझे भी ये पढ़ना है, लोग ये कर रहे तो मुझे भी करना है, and you become like that. You never do anything unique, suitable to you. So लोग attempt दे रहे तो मुझे भी देना है, ये attitude mentality कभी नहीं आना चाहिए. Okay, you should know yourself well, you should design your strategy, और जिसको बोलते हैं ना, a stitch in time saves the night. बूंद बूंद लेके आपको सब बिल्ड करना है. सडनली कुछ भी नहीं मिलेगा, ये आप ध्यान रखो. लाइक नॉलेज, एक्सपीरियंस, अवेयरनेस, विजडम, ये सडनली कभी नहीं आता है. वी लर्न थ्रू ट्रायल्स एंड एरर्स. आपने कभी भी 8-10 घंटा पढ़ाई नहीं की है, लेट मी टेल यू फ्रैंकली, नन ऑफ अस. एग्जाम जब भी आते हैं तब भी हम पढ़ते हैं, लेकिन कंसिस्टेंटली पूरा साल 8-10 घंटा पढ़ाई, ये पॉसिबल नहीं. सो फ्रॉम द डे वन, नेवर एवर इंसिस्ट ऑन 8 to 10 hours. Start with small, and then build on it gradually, and achieve the momentum and keep it. It will take you to the. लेकिन अगर आपने जिसको बोलते हैं ना, छोड़ दिया फिर पकड़ लिया, छोड़ दिया पकड़ लिया, ऐसा किया, तो it will be 5-year plan. Okay, एक बार प्रीलिम निकल जाती है, दूसरी बार मेंस नहीं निकलती, फिर मेंस निकलती है तो इंटरव्यू नहीं होता है, फिर प्रीलिम भी नहीं होती है, I have seen such people. कुछ लोगों को हमने ऐसे भी देखा है कि फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट में इंटरव्यू स्टेज तक गए, वहां फ्लंक होने के बाद दूसरे ईयर प्रीलिम भी नहीं दी। ऐसा भी नहीं होना चाहिए। यू नीड टू बी कंसिस्टेंट इन योर प्रिपरेशन, और आपको खुद का स्ट्रेटजी खुद का ही होना चाहिए। ईच वन ऑफ यू कम्स विद यूनिक बैगेज, यूनिक एक्सपीरियंस, यूनिक लाइफस्टाइल, यूनिक अवेयरनेस, यूनिक एबिलिटीज। तो आपको खुद को ढालना है उसमें, and you have to acquire new things. This is not merely a process of passing the exam, it is also a process of transforming yourself into such a person who would be eligible to take on the important responsibilities. तो आपको ऐसे भी एग्जाम की तरफ देखना है, and accordingly you have to acquire new set of values, new set of skills. आपको खुद को ग्राउंड करना है उस पर्सनैलिटी में जो डाउन टू अर्थ हो, सेंसिबल हो, काम माइंडेड हो, फोकस्ड हो, जिसको मालूम है मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, कहाँ जा रहा हूँ, वो कॉन्फिडेंस होना चाहिए। You should not get swayed by herd mentality. Are you getting my point? All right, this is enough for today. If you at all have any queries, please ask. Anything about exam, anything about paper, anything about preparation. Online people, you can also go ahead. You can ask in chat box, or you can raise the hand and I will unmute you. Here, जो भी पूछना है पूछो, आपके मन में जो भी सवाल है, डाउट है, I welcome all queries. आज जो एक्सप्लेन किया है वो सब समझ में आ गया? All right, let me tell you, in ethics is never a boring subject. Okay, it draws from real life examples. So almost all of our sessions are equally interesting because they are based on thought experiment, they are based on real life example. There will be to and fro session. I never believe in one way delivery because it never helps student. So I encourage participation of students in discussion debates. I tend to ask question, you tend to give me answer, then we reply to and fro. ऐसे हमारा सेशन है, ठीक है? Any question? Any question is welcome. See, let me tell you theory behind this. When this paper was introduced in exam, the only book which was available was lexicon. So almost all of them referred lexicon and some of them got passed. So tradition शुरू हो गया ना, पिछले टॉपर ने lexicon किया तो next वाले ने lexicon किया. अब आपको ये सोचना है which source is relevant, which will help you to write the answer. So lexicon सामने रख कर बताओ कि आप कौन से आंसर लिख पाओगे. Most of the definitions given in lexicon are not precise. So आपको decide करना है to what extent you can rely on lexicon. Market में से बहुत सारी किताबें हैं, they give you more than necessary. If you read too much, you will have less mental space for thinking. वो नहीं करना चाहिए. Why? Because this paper is dynamic paper. जितना आप सोचोगे theory के context में, current affair के context में, your answer will be qualitatively better than the others. So सोचना ये बहुत important है. पढ़ना कम है because syllabus is relatively minute compared to other papers. So lexicon मत use करो. I will suggest you some of the authoritative sources. वहाँ से आपको definition लेना है, perspective लेना है. That is more. Online people, do you have any queries? All right, if that is the case, then we'll stop e-learning somewhere.